I hope you guys are doing super well. Decided to try something a little new with the mic this week. Go more of a handheld vibe. I've been told that the mic does cover half of my face, which I have noticed. So I decided, you know what, maybe try something a little new. I know the noise level might be a little louder than usual, so I do apologize for that. But we always try different things here on the Essential Question Podcast. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments down below right after you like and subscribe to this video. Like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would be much appreciated. We love growing this community. It's been growing like crazy the last month, so let's continue the positive trajectory. Also, sorry again about the Wednesday release. Although if you guys do prefer me releasing episodes on Wednesday, let me know if this is something that works out for you all. We would love to see that happen, and we're all about change here on the Essential Question Podcast, so let me know. On this episode of the podcast, though, the essential question is actually something I forgot to mention until about 30 minutes into the podcast, and that is, what is the role of political comedy in society? The guest I brought on to talk about this topic is actually someone who is very, very credible on this, as he has been on a pretty epic rise when it comes to his role in the space of political comedy, and that is TikTok's very own Karan Menon. Karan is a comic who is based in New Jersey and LA and started making skits during the summer of 2020 on TikTok to educate individuals on the issues going on within America in regards to systemic racism and police brutality. He also does other current events, but tends to focus more on police issues as well as racism. Karan often takes these complicated and complex concepts that get thrown around in the media and breaks them down into short, easy, digestible skits that all sorts of younger and older individuals can understand. Karan has amassed a pretty crazy following in the last few months, and we talk about how he got his start within comedy, the research that goes into his skits, and the impact that his skits have had on the general population that has been watching him. We also talk about how humor can be used to educate others and take the negative and polarizing issues of politics and make them easy, digestible issues to the outside viewer. Also, I have Karan's TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube linked down below in the description, so please feel free to go check him out. Go check out all his content. He's doing great stuff, and he continues to have great projects being released close to every week, so feel free to go check out his content. It's super good. And if you prefer to go look him up on the internet instead of clicking the link, go ahead and search up the Karan Menon, and you should also be able to find him on pretty much all platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, etc. So go ahead and do that if you prefer. This conversation, again, was super fun, and I've had a pleasure talking to him. So without further ado, here we are, episode 15 with the Brown Hassan Minaj. Cue it up. Coming to you live from my parents' house, we got episode 15 of the Essential Question Podcast, and today I am absolutely honored to have one of TikTok's Brown Kings himself, Karan Menon. What's going on, man?
What's up? Thank you for having me.
No problem, bro. The political stuff that you've been doing has obviously been great. How's everything going? How's your Corona time doing?
Corona time has been pretty nice. It's Corona, but since Corona started, things have been actually going pretty well in terms of like videos getting seen and stuff. Like I wouldn't be doing any of the stuff I'm doing now if it wasn't for Corona.
Mm-hmm.
Then I also did get it earlier this year, and that was not fun. So
okay, we'll be sure to talk about that a little bit later on in the podcast. But before we get started, give the people kind of a 2-sentence summary about who you are if they don't really know or not familiar with your stuff.
Yeah. So the blurb that I usually give people is I make comedy videos, like sketches that break down social issues or political issues or news stories that you might be wondering about, and explaining them in 60 seconds or less, usually through comedy. That's and usually through TikTok, which is where all the youths are right now. So.
This is true. It's very much for the youngins, so the attention span of our generations has just slowly dwindled to the point where it's 60 seconds.
And
videos.
it's why not embrace that? I was making videos that were 4 or 5 minutes long. They weren't even about real world issues, but back in the day I was making these sketches that were just comedy, no commentary. And those were fun, but if it's shorter, if you can make it shorter to get the same point across, then people will just appreciate that. So
right, yeah. I think there's something to that, with just having a minute long kind of content where you're able to just synthesize all the information that you need to know within a course of a minute, and everyone just kind of gets it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but beyond the two sets of summary, I was gonna do five really quick questions for you. I've been doing some research. I like doing my homework on all my guests.
Cool,
So
cool.
I know you're from Jersey. You're a Jersey kid.
Yes, sir.
Are you in LA right now? Or are you still in
I
Jersey?
am, yeah. Yeah,
Okay. So
I was in New Jersey for like most of last year because of quarantine, but
yeah.
I go to USC, so I'm right now at the dorm or the
Okay.
off-campus housing, yeah.
Okay, for sure. But this is the big question: West Coast or
Okay.
East Coast? Because I know you're an East Coast kid, but you go to school
Yeah,
on the West Coast.
huge question. We're still figuring it out, but I mean, New Jersey is it's like that's where I grew up. I'm very used to the East Coast, and New York is still like the city for me, but this is kind of the place to be for what I'm trying to do, LA. So yeah, I might end up, being here in the future, but
For sure.
I would have to say, East Coast just because I got like allegiances, how it is.
Yeah, I for sure. Did you grow up near Edison? Because that's like the one city I know in New Jersey that's like
Yeah,
hella
yeah, yeah.
Indian.
I
Yeah.
grew up pretty close to Edison, but I mean, I have cousins who live in Edison. I feel like every Indian person has like at least one cousin who lives in Edison, or you are the cousin who lives in Edison.
Right.
And for me, I had cousins, but yeah, pretty close by.
Okay.
Just the
For sure.
mecca of Brown. I mean, it's very, very, very interesting. I know a bunch of people from there. I've been there a bunch, and like
Hmm.
it is more than 50% Indian, I think, which is like you
That's
nowhere
crazy.
else in the country, maybe not even in India, do you see those levels. Uh, and yeah, it's something to behold.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I grew up in like probably like one of the like second I would say to probably Edison, because I grew up in Cupertino, which is like
Cool. Yeah, I've heard.
that's up there. It's
Yeah,
like the West Coast version of Edison.
yeah. I
So
heard Fresno was or Fremont, so one of those
Fremont,
places.
yes,
Fremont.
Fremont is like 20-25 minutes from where I grew up, and that is like
Okay.
very, very Indian, like kind of
Mm.
Edison type status as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's good that I didn't really think like back in the like day, if you just grow up around it, you're like, oh, this is just the norm.
right.
You don't realize like there's just these pockets around the country, and then the other places, it's like very rare to see that level
Yeah.
of brown. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I was like, oh, so like I guess like every metropolitan city has like 65% like Patels in their high school.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
you step
It's
outside and you're like,
misleading.
what?
Yeah.
But my second quick question for you was I know you obviously are a comedian and you're trying to like break into that field. So like who are your biggest inspirations within comedy right now?
Yeah. In terms of like stand-ups that I grew up watching, like Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, or, like I feel like they're still considered like two of like the greatest people still doing comedy. But I loved watching stand-up specials growing up. Like anything that was on Netflix, I would watch. But in terms of what I'm actually like what I am doing, like the more like sketches, I think Key and Peele were like some like the people I grew up watching from when I was like 11 to I still watch them like every like pretty much every other day. I'll watch a Key and Peele sketch. Like I like those are like the top of the top for me. Like
Yeah.
SNL is also up there, but Key and Peele was like just legendary. I think they made was like bad, and there was also like a lot of like commentary in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, all these I mean Jon Stewart as well, talk shows like that.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm obliged to say Hassan, although I know
Yeah,
like
I figured that was
yeah
coming.
yeah I don't watch him as often as other like talk shows I guess
Right.
but I mean, his it is like his show is like over at the moment, but it is good to have someone like him out there. That was a very inspiring thing to
For
grow up
sure.
seeing. So,
I mean, I feel like what you're doing and just the fact that you're brown, I bet you get that comparison all the time, right?
oh
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
Actually,
oh,
my TikTok bio for a while was the Brown Hassan Minaj.
that's a good
Yeah,
one. That's a good one.
yeah,
I mean,
I
I
know.
think like I again like when the Indian farmers protests and stuff happened, like I would tweet it. I was like, "Where's Hassan at? Like we
Yeah,
need
yeah,
we need that." But like, I mean, obviously you came out with your video. We'll talk about that,
yeah, yeah,
which was super cool. So like, good stuff.
yeah.
Um,
Thanks.
the third question I had, this is kind of based on like you use fraternities a lot as like a metaphor in your videos,
Yeah.
and so do you like are you and I know you're in college, so I figure that's probably like an easy method of communication to kids our age.
Yes.
So like frat like are you a big frat party guy or like are you more into the kickback vibe? What's your vibe?
I actually, yeah, I'm not in a frat. That's like really, I'm not in a frat. I've been to maybe two frat parties in my life. Because you have to like pay $50 if you're a guy or something, like some extreme amount.
Yeah.
Um, But it's just like even if you're not in a frat, like it basically just like the culture of like people in college in general right now. It's just like like if you're living with four other guys, as I lived with like eight guys freshman year. Like you just pick up on all the lingo and like, you hang out with people who are in frats, and you just know like just how people just like to bro down in college. And then you just take that vernacular and like that the way that people speak about stuff, and you just apply that to like a concept that is has nothing to do with frats, but it's the same kind of concept of like you can kind of apply a frat setting to like anything because it's like an
Right.
organized group. You can compare a country to a frat. You can compare like a police department to a frat. There's always like people, and you just need a setting where there are people
Yeah.
and there's like a hierarchy, and that's how it works. So yeah.
No, I think bro culture is just like a great like symbolism for like any sort of establishment, right? Because like frats are like the biggest establishment that we know of.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're in high school, like you're probably upset, even if you've never been in a frat because you're in high school, you're still like obsessed with like
Yeah,
people who are in college, and you want to be in college, and you want to be in that culture. So it's
right,
just like
right.
appealing.
For sure. And then my next question was gonna be, I know you've done stand up in the past, obviously like pre-corona and all of
Yeah.
that, like and like performed in like open mics and whatnot. But you've also like with corona like adapted to the whole TikTok skit format. So like what are you a more of a stand-up guy, or like you come to like really like the skits better? Like what's your
Yeah,
feeling?
that's a good question. I was before this. I was even before Corona. I was doing sketch comedy in college, like live shows, and then obviously that stopped at the same time that stand up stopped with the COVID. But at the moment, I would say, yeah, the sketches kind of take over. Have taken over like most of my life at this point. Like stand up, I go to open mics. There's some backyard shows. There's Zoom shows. I still do those just to like. I feel like stand up gives you one thing that like nothing else can give you, which is like immediate feedback. Like if you make a video, you can like make a draft, show it to someone, make another draft, show it to someone. We have a joke, like you kind of just have to go out and perform it a bunch of times, and you'll know if it's not funny because you won't get laughs. Or you'll know parts that aren't funny that you need to work on, and that's like something you can apply to like anything else you do. Like just like honing like a sense of humor. Like stand up is the best for that. So I value both of them, but at the moment, it's all the videos really.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they both have their different like vibes to them because like when you prepare something, like you can really refine it and perfect it like the way you want to, and then like make it into the final product that you're proud of.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
but like with stand up, I feel like it's so on the fly, and it's like if people aren't laughing, you're like, oh crap, like what the fuck do I
Yeah,
do?
exactly. Stand up, there's like way more of a process to getting to the right like you kind of have in a way you have multiple shots because you I can just keep bombing at open mics and you would never know.
Hmm.
Like I'll keep bombing till I get the joke right and then you'll see the final product like whereas in this it's like you kind of get one shot with the video like you gotta make a really good product.
That's true.
So in that way you have to put a lot of thought into this one thing and you
Yeah.
get like one shot.
For sure. That's interesting. And then I have two more, but they're pretty quick. So my second to last one, I know you did a whole. I watched your whole TikTok on like the craziest mispronunciations of your name in middle school and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So like, what have been the funniest mispronunciations of Karan that you've gotten?
Oh yes. I literally got called corn. Uh, like a substitute teacher. Like there was this one substitute who just had like a condition, I guess, where he would look at a name and he would look at the first letter and the last letter and he would just make up the middle part. Like if it was a name he didn't recognize, like I'm pretty sure that's what he was like. He called me corn. This guy Kunal, he called him kale. I think he was just more of he was just into food maybe. But
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he
yeah,
thought all Indian people were vegetables. So
maybe that's what he thinks. Yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, that was probably one of the crazy. People call me like I don't know, crayon. You know, Karen is the most common
Karen. Yeah,
because they think they'll look at it and think, oh, that cannot be. This person must have misspelled their own name,
yeah,
um, and so that's what I get the most. But now Karen is as we know, it is a slur and
for sure.
cannot say that. So
This is true. Now, this is true. I guess people gotta watch it. It's 2021. You gotta,
yeah,
gotta,
yeah,
gotta be politically correct.
of course.
And then the last question. This is like based on like the skit you did where it was like for the electoral college, and I was like thinking to myself, I was like, I wonder what Karan actually likes. So I was like, White Claw or milk, Karan? You gotta answer
Oh,
that question right now.
this is a very yeah. I I yeah. Is like I enjoy a claw. Like I'll take the occasional claw, but like in terms of like what I'm having most often, it's milk. Like I like to say I'm a claw
True.
guy, but in just looking at the numbers, it's been milk. Like in from day one,
Yeah.
it's been milk, and it will continue to be milk. So that's where I'm at. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, that's true, right? I mean, like you hang out with milk for like 20 years, and then like White Claw's just thrown into the mix all of a sudden.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and you
it
can
takes
try
some
to mix
time.
them, and it just doesn't work out. Like it
You
does
tried
not.
mixing them?
I won't disclose it, but you can try, and it doesn't
Okay.
work. I'll tell you, but you can
Do
try.
not want to know that story. It does not sound like it
Don't.
ended nicely.
No,
Um,
it did not.
but you said you got corona earlier this year. So you want to talk about that a little
Yes.
bit? What was the story? What
Yeah.
was it like?
It was kind of ridiculous. Like I've so like the precursor was like I had worked at my mom's, like she's a doctor. I worked at her office over
Hmm.
quarantine, like testing people's temperatures, and that like qualified me to be like a medical worker kind of to get the
Right.
vaccine. So in January I was going to get the vaccine, and then 2 days before I can get the vaccine, I test positive. Like 2 days before my appointment, I test positive for COVID. Yeah, one of my brother's like friends came over and he hugged me when I opened the door, and he like wasn't wearing a mask. And then it turns out that like his mom was getting tested and was sick, and he knew that, but he didn't tell anybody. And then she tested positive, so then we all started quarantining. And
Yeah.
then yeah, I actually ended up in the hospital for a few days because I had some like chest pain,
Oh
but that
wow.
ended up being okay. But it was
Okay.
just a bad experience. I had a horrible fever and stuff. So
Okay.
I know young people are not supposed to like get symptoms, but for some reason I just did not luck out, and I had
Right.
like a really bad fever. So
So
I don't recommend.
was it like a 2 week thing, or like was it kind of like a few
It was
days?
like it was like 3 to 4 days of like bad fever, and then the fever
Okay.
went away, and I was like, oh, everything's cool. And then the fever came back like on the fifth day. So the whole thing took like probably like a week and a half to just get over. It was
Yeah.
not fun.
Do you kind of still feel long-term effects? I'm just curious because like I've never actually talked to someone
Yeah,
with it.
not anymore. There was one day like 3 weeks later, I suddenly got sick again, and someone was like, "Oh yeah, you just gotta like, sometimes that happens. You just gotta wait, but you're not
That's
like contagious when that happens."
damn.
But yeah, I don't, maybe 2 out of 10, I would say, as far as experiences.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, that makes you what, one of like 2.5 million people that got it. So there you
yeah,
go.
honestly, yeah, solidarity.
Yeah.
Someone has to do it.
I mean, I guess did it give you any decent stand-up material?
I should try maybe. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see. Post-corona vaccinations, maybe.
yeah,
We'll
yeah,
see.
yeah.
But so, like, when did you start kind of realizing that stand-up was a real thing? Like, that it was something you could really go out and do?
Yeah, I always thought about doing it like in high school, but I grew up like in New
Hmm.
Jersey. There was no comedy clubs where I was. I could
Right.
have taken maybe like trips to New York City and try that, but at the time I was just focused on getting into college. And then once I got into college, after like I was funny in high school, like I would make jokes and all that. So I knew, and I had like even written down stuff that I thought I could try sometime in the future. But in college, you can kind of just start like immediately. Like there's open mics at college. There's open mics all over LA. There's like stand-up classes. I took a stand-up class in freshman year, and that's when I like found that I could actually do it. Wasn't like such a, it seemed such an intimidating thing, but it's really not. Like anybody can
Right.
just talk at a mic, and the worst that could happen is that nobody laughs, and then you just go and work on it again. But yeah, I had like some early, like some of the jokes I tried out initially did get some laughs, so that was encouraging. And then by the end of like freshman year, I had like done a show because of this class, and it went very well. And then I was interning that summer, staying in LA, and I just had all the time to like work on stuff at open mics, and that's when I realized like I could actually continue doing this and you don't have to like make it a, you can't make it a profession like immediately,
Right.
but you just have to make it part of what you do, and it really is just about putting in time. That's also something I realized is like that people who become really big comics aren't even the funniest people necessarily. Like the most naturally funny people,
Mm-hmm.
probably people who've like never put in time. They're just really funny, but they're because they're so naturally funny, they might not even feel like they need to put in the time.
Right.
Right? People who are like the underdogs, kind of like I'm not the funniest, but I will like work on these jokes like obsessively until I find like there's like a science to making things funny. You literally just
Yeah.
put in the time and it will become funnier. The people who are the funniest are the people who put in the most hours.
Yeah.
And that appealed to me because I'm not always the funniest, but like I'm willing to put in like that amount of time. So
For sure. I mean, like I've noticed that with like other comics too, is just like that have like I've seen interviews or other podcasts, they just like preach this whole idea of like it's just work ethic and workshopping different things and
yeah,
throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. And
yeah,
it's just
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Like, who was like one of the first comedians that you like really saw and like you kind of like modeled, quote unquote, modeled your style by, like in some instance?
Yeah, it's interesting because I tried modeling my style after a bunch of different comics, like starting out. Like I thought Bill Burr was so funny, so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna rant because that's his whole thing. He just gets angry about stuff, and he's like,
Yeah.
but he's like from Boston, like he grew up with like I don't know, like 7 siblings or something. He just had like a different like his whole lifestyle was just like he had like a
Right.
dad who was like an alcoholic and like yelled at everybody, so he knew how to like yell back and like just like roast people, and that's like his whole thing. But you
Yeah.
can't really like copy people's styles just because you find it funny. Like it is funny, but that's not how you are funny
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. So it took a while, and I'm still probably still finding it. But Dave Chappelle was also someone who I tried to model after. Like he has a lot of like thoughtfulness in his comedy, but he's also just at a level where you can try to imitate him, but he's just at another level.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I like I don't do like long stories. I don't do like rants, but I do like the observational stuff. So
Okay. So like you
yeah.
pick out people in the crowd and like really start to like.
Oh, well, that's something that's not observation about the crowd, but just observations about life, like
Okay.
different aspects of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That crowd work is something that again, like you have to get good at, or you can just be someone who's good at that. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to incorporate that as well. Obviously, there's no crowds anymore, but
Right.
yeah, I think the style that I have now is kind of like more of a calm vibe. I used to go in there and just try to be so like energetic about it, and now I've kind of like toned it back a little bit where I can just be more calm and like focus on the joke just being sound and then like working on like aspects of like physicality and stuff like that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
still like I'm trying to like find people who I can keep modeling stuff off of. There's like a comic named Sam Morrill who is very very funny, and he's like one of those people where he just kind of like stands there and he'll just tell a joke, but the joke itself is so funny it doesn't really matter. Like he doesn't have to do all like a lot to get the joke to work. That's like the
Right.
kind of stuff I like to do.
Okay. Interesting. It's like he doesn't have to like overemphasize certain things or words or any of
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Um, So, like the first thing I saw when I was looking you up was I noticed that you have like this documentary. There's like or
Oh,
documentary, right? I think you must have
that's
made it
it.
in like high school or something.
I made it
Um,
freshman year of college. Yeah.
okay, and so essentially what it's about, for those of you that don't know, is it's about like Karan Menon making fun of like the 10 trillion Karan Menons that are out in the world, and I think it's hilarious. So do you want to talk about that documentary a little bit?
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, I mean, this is like this was just a coincidence that just led to like so many more coincidences. But like, this guy Karan Menon, in 2015 won the National Geography Bee. Like not me, this other guy,
Mhm.
from Edison, actually, New
Yeah.
Jersey, which is very close to where I live. And so like my brother had been in a summer camp with him. Like he went to the same school as my like cousin at one point, I think. And like he
Okay.
also like well, I have a friend at like where I live in New Jersey, Homedale, New Jersey, who moved from Edison and was neighbors with that Carmen, and now he's friends with me, another Carmen. So I have like all these like ties to this guy, and
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
he was in the news when he won that thing, and everybody was like make jokes about it, with, like because he was like in eighth grade and I was in ninth grade
Right.
when he won that, and so like for all of high school they'd be like, oh, you're the guy who won the geography, be like kind of in like
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
joking way. Um, and then yeah, and at one point I was just like I like he saw some video I made and he like commented on it and I was like this is the opportunity of a lifetime, arguably. Like I'm going to meet this man and I'm going to make a documentary or like a mockumentary
Yeah.
about like living in his shadow as like someone someone who can't Google his own name without just
Right.
seeing like 2,000 results about this like eighth grade kid who won
Yeah.
the geography beat. And so at this point I was like it was like the like winter break freshman year of college, and I was on vacation, and this guy reached out and I was like, "Would you like to meet?" And he said yes. And then I said, "Okay." I was like, I'm gonna write like this like long ass script for a
Yeah.
mockumentary where like for the first half it's just me like giving interviews with my parents and they're all like, "Yeah, like our
Right.
son."
Right.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
because the thing is, I also tried to do the geography when I was in like middle school.
Yeah. Okay.
Like as like I actually tried. Like I won. I got like third place in my middle school, and then that like ended. I realized I wasn't like that good at it, and I ended it.
Yeah.
But the fact that this guy like the same name actually did this thing, it was just insane. So for the whole thing
Yeah.
was just me like playing this character of someone who's like super salty, and then like
Yeah.
kind of lead up to like meeting this guy, who ends up just being super wholesome, like just a super friendly kid.
Yeah. You seemed like a really nice kid in the whole
Yeah, he
thing.
actually. So it's like me, like with all my rage, like you
Yeah.
took my life, and then like he knows my friends, he knows, and then he's just like, oh yeah, I'm just trying to get into a good college, like you know, like what, like
Yeah.
what's going on? And then yeah, it ends with like a final geography face off, like the matchup that never was.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't give it away, but it came out just like way more wholesome than I could have expected. But I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah. No, I think it came out good. I think like the fact that you like involved your family in it was like kind of cool. It gave it like that relatable element. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
they were
yeah.
like, "Oh, that Karan Menon's just better than this."
Yeah,
Our
exactly.
Karan
Yeah. I
Menon."
got them to say all these bad things about me like, on camera.
They were probably like,
Uh,
"What is this?" Like,
I know, but I mean, they just like they appreciate like they have good senses of humor too.
yeah.
But yeah, I had to like kind of sell them on the vision. I was like, you just got to roast the hell out of me. Like, I like my mom said everything with such a straight face, so I just had to like lean into that. Like I had to like detail just how bad I was with like the most like straight face. It was just really good the way they and like my dad is a very funny guy as well.
Yeah,
So both of them just knew how to deliver, which was great. Like my whole family kind of like knew the vibe,
for sure.
which was nice.
Yeah, would you say you get your humor more from like your mom or your dad? Like, or like which side of the family is like the funny one?
I think both sides of my family have like pretty good senses of humor. Like my dad actually did stand up comedy when he like in
Okay.
the 2000s. He was like a really like funny guy in college and all. Like he just like and he is a very funny guy. Like he cracks
Mhm.
like most of the jokes in my family. So I've gotten that kind of from him, like the quick thinking. But my mom also just comes from like a huge family. Like whenever we have the family gatherings, it's just like people cracking jokes all the time.
Yeah,
So it's either side. It's just like a part of it's just like a part of the family. Like you
for
just gotta
sure.
have a good sense of humor.
Yeah, I think with like Indian parents and just Indian families in general, they just like they see no lines when it comes to jokes, and they're like
Oh
not
yeah.
afraid to just crack anything. And so,
Yeah, dude, that's absolutely true. Like,
yeah.
I, we graduated high school. We went to someone's like it was like a dual graduation of my two friends, Kunal and Arvind,
Right.
who were just like best friends in high school.
Mm.
And they had like speeches, and they asked me and my friend to do like a roast of them at
Hmm.
this graduation, and so we just roasted the hell out of these two guys like in front of everybody for like 10 minutes. It did really well, but I was just like, damn, like we said some things about them, and then like at the end of it, this guy's dad comes up to me and he's like, I just want to say like that was so good, like thank you so much. I was like, dude, I said your like son has like the height of a basketball player and the personality of a basketball, and he was like, yo, thank you, like someone had to say it. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, man. I mean, Indian people like when it comes to roasting, they know no bounds. So
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah. Um. So like in terms of like your politics, by the way, I forgot to mention the essential question of the episode. We're like
Oh, of course,
40
of
minutes
course.
in. So the essential
Yeah.
question of the episode is basically what is the role of political comedy in society? I think Karan can really help answer that. He's been doing this stuff for a while. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'll mention it at the beginning too, before this
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
edited and stuff. So, but like when you were you always like really interested in politics, or was that something that kind of came in a little recently with the George Floyd stuff? Like, how did you
Yeah.
kind of get the political side of this?
It was kind of a result of everything that happened like last summer with George Floyd. Like I always considered myself a kind of not like I like my family's like a Democratic family kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And we like I followed politics, but I kind of like especially after 2016 with all like the just like everything that happened, like it was too much to like keep following
Right.
every single piece of news. I'm someone with a loud ass motorcycles outside.
It's all
It,
good.
wa- it was just like I don't know, like especially with all these like there was a lot of like the ratings soared for like all these like political talk shows like Daily Show,
Right.
Trevor Noah, Stephen Colbert, like, and I would watch those, and that was like a way of getting news that wasn't just like depressing,
Mm-hmm.
but also it was very clear like where they stood on the spectrum. You're coming to an episode of Stephen Colbert, you know you're going to be getting like just this guy roasting like Trump basically
Yeah.
for like 10 minutes, and he's like, okay, I'm going to just reinforce my beliefs basically, and it got like too much. I was just like, I didn't want to be a part of it, so I just focused on comedy that was just comedy. I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be like make people laugh. I don't want to bring politics into it. And then 2020, obviously this happens, and suddenly it's like you can't not be political. Like you have to
Right.
talk about politics, and in a way, like that was kind of the only thing that could be talked about for a while. Like you could try to make a comedy skit like in like mid June, but it would just not nobody would be there for it. Like nobody was interested in watching like a random ass like sketch about like nothing. Like everybody was like using social media for like the
Exactly.
purpose of education.
Mm-hmm.
That was like what it was. Um, and so like it was kind of like if I wanted to keep making comedy, either I had to wait or I could just go with what people were talking about now and try to find like ridiculous things to talk about within there. Like there are real life ridiculous things to talk about.
Yeah.
That actually way more than I thought there were. But like you just look up like some of these laws that prevent police from being prosecuted. and there's so much to learn and so much to explain to people that it's actually very easy to grasp. You just have to like boil it down a little bit, and that's what the qualified immunity video was.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then honestly, and then from there it became like a way better version of comedy. It was like you make people laugh and they appreciate that you learn, like they, not that I'm like someone who teaches people, but like
Hmm.
they appreciate that there's like some information in there too. You're not just going there to
Yeah.
like you could waste like 5 hours on like scrolling on Instagram, and I do that like constantly,
Right.
and I feel like dead inside after that. But if
Yeah.
you get like a kernel of like information that gets you like more connected to what's
It's all
happening,
these
and
like this is what I'm saying, right? It's like all these stupid Canva threads where it's like resources to help you, and then like
oh
it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like this convoluted ass thread which makes zero sense. And then you go
yeah.
through these through Instagram, and it's just like, what is going on? Like I came with less, like more questions than I started with. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's good. I mean, it's good to learn about things, but like, yeah, people are like just reposting the same like five infographics,
right,
like that pyramid of like covert versus like
yeah,
overt white supremacy. Everybody was reposting that. Like, damn. Like, at first I was like, maybe I should repost this, and I was like, well, why? Like, everybody is seeing this already. Like, so I don't know, and that doesn't help really. Like, you can donate to organizations, that helps, but like you need there's actual things that can help. Like there are things that if more people know about them, then more people will feel strongly about them, and then actual like
Mhm.
laws will change because these people elect
Yeah, I
politicians.
mean, it's that whole idea of like performative activism, right? Where it's like everybody
Yeah,
wants to like be a part of it, so we have to like do all of these things together. And like,
yeah, yeah,
just mass sends of information that really mean nothing in the long scheme of things. So, that's
yeah,
pretty
yeah, yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Exactly. So I never wanted to be like like that. Like the performative thing is like the opposite of what I'm trying. Like I'm trying
Right.
to actually, and I don't even know if it's being an activist what I'm doing, but I'm doing something that's related to what's happening,
Mhm.
and I'm being an entertainer. I don't want to call myself like I always like Jon Stewart would always say like he's not a journalist, he's a comedian
For
first,
sure.
but that doesn't mean that he's not trying to do something with his comedy. So
Yeah.
that's
So
exactly what I'm trying to do.
you were talking, you referenced the qualified immunity TikTok, and I think that was kind of one of your first TikToks to really go like crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like explain kind of the inspiration for that, like then kind of the process of like what went into making it.
Yeah, so at that point it was like I think the video went out like June 8th, and the George Floyd thing was the killing happened like May 26th.
Hmm.
So there was a period where like it was like okay, just stop doing comedy and just listen, read, like figure like learn about what's happening. And so I was learning. I watched like Hassan's thing on that. He did like an episode on George Floyd and like
Right.
the Indian community and like just like solidarity between communities and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And he was talking about like three tangible things that can be done. Like at the end of the episode, he's like, here are three things that can actually happen to like help this. And one of them was like end qualified immunity. And that was like a random ass thing. He didn't even talk about it for like the in the episode. He was like, end qualified immunity is a horrible law that prevents accountability, and it needs. And there's a bill in Congress right now to get rid of it,
Hmm.
and we should all make sure that bill passes. And then so I was sitting there like, what is it? Like what actually is it? And
Right.
so like yeah, I googled it. Like and someone was also telling me at the same time like I think it was the other Karan Menon of all people like who we are now friends like we
Yeah.
like he was like yo you should do some comedy stuff based on what's happening. I was like at first I was like yeah but this is like heavy stuff. And then I was like
Right.
okay this is one thing. So I read up on qualified immunity and the base the concept which is ridiculous is basically that you can't sue a cop for violating your rights if there was a previous case where the cop was brought to court for violating that same right and he wasn't prosecuted or he or
Right.
she wasn't prosecuted. So basically it's like if I like there's been cases where like a cop like was aiming at someone's dog and he like missed and he accidentally hit the guy's kid. And
Hmm.
then the guy was like, I'm gonna sue this cop for shooting my kid. Like,
Yeah.
the kid died. But then he went to court and they're like, sorry, the judge was like, sorry, there's never been a case where a cop, like a previous case where a cop missed a dog and hit a kid where the
Right.
cop got prosecuted. So unfortunately, we can't prosecute him now. Like, because there needs to be a precedent. Like, why that makes no sense. If someone does a
Hmm.
bad thing, there doesn't really need to be a precedent for in this case. Like, there could be like so many specifics you like focus on. So I took that and I just applied it to like a very basic situation which was just like a classroom setting. Like one guy just slapped someone across the face, which was me slapping myself across the face, because I play all the characters. So I literally like
Yeah.
slapped myself across the face probably like 25 times for this video, but only like three of them make it into the. But it was a lot of. The point is like my face was hurting while I filmed this. But we're like it's basically just like a slap, and the guy's like, "Why did you do that?" And he's like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna slap me first." And then there's like He's like, I think you should get in trouble. And then they talk to the teacher, and the teacher's like, have you done this before? Like, has he slapped you before? And he's like, oh no. Or he says yes. But he's like, but did he get in trouble then? And then he says no. He's like, sorry, he can't get in trouble now. And so it's like that catch-22 where like you can't get in trouble now if you didn't get in trouble in the past, and so you will never get in trouble for doing the same thing over and over again. And that like resonated. I think it was a very simple way to talk about something that is like a little more complex than that, but then everybody was like that was like what people were like latched onto, was just like how easy it was to understand.
No, I think it was super, like, you just kind of boiled it down to like very basic terms. You were like, all right, it's a slap, like this, in a classroom setting, like this is what's going on. And then I guess people were able to like take that connection that you brought and really just apply it to like the broader context of the situation.
Yeah. And there was also like I mean, that kind of same like thing applies to a lot of different concepts too. Like we're like, and basically it's like everything that I make now is like kind of in that same vein of like, there's a normal guy and then there's someone who's in power who's just like screwing that guy over a lot, and just being super like cheerful about it while he's doing like, that's basically the whole vibe.
So that's crazy. So like that TikTok went like absolutely ballistic. Like you had celebrities like on that, like Sarah Silverman retweeted you, right? Or something like that. Yeah. And then Chance put you on his story. Like Chance the Rapper. That was for the next one. Tell me about that whole experience. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, that, like this basically started like a period of just like a lot of like I also had like way more time than I don't know how I was using my time so productively, but I was making like 2 videos a week in this vein, and each video would get like a good amount of views on like TikTok, like hundreds of thousands, sometimes like a million, and if you watched one, then you would go and see the other ones, and so like the views were feeding into each other, and they were all just like rocketing, and people were like sending me screenshots like, oh, this person reposted you, like Chance the Rapper reposted you.
I bet all your friends were like, dude, Chance put you on a story. Like,
that was people were sending me like lots of messages. They're like, like I woke up today, checked the story of one of my favorite rappers in the world, and I saw you there. Like, mad respect, bro. Like,
that's insane, bro. Like,
I just want to say mad respect. Like, I was like, it's someone like people I never talked to since middle school. Like, I was like, so because I mean that does look cool. Subjectively, like it makes you feel very good about yourself. But I was also like scared that if I didn't keep making things, like this would be like for nothing. Like, I mean, obviously it's for a purpose, but like I'm also trying to like use these to like build a platform so I can keep doing this and people will keep watching it. And there's like early stages where like you gotta capitalize, like you gotta keep making stuff.
Continue the
momentum.
momentum.
I think I did a good job in those first few months of just continuing to put stuff out, and not like because it is cool when someone reposts you, but you can't just make that like, oh, I've peaked, like that's it, like I'm done.
Right.
Yeah,
like I don't want to peak at like a Chance the Rapper story mention. Like I want to build my own stuff, right? Like
that's not going on a resume like Chance the Rapper. Like, oh, look at the screenshots. Like,
I mean, it's a flex. Like it's a flex for sure. Yeah,
it's a
like
flex for my brother too. Yeah,
exactly.
My brother was in that video he reposted, playing the concept of racism of all. So,
was that is racism a frat, right?
Yeah. Okay. America was a frat.
Okay. I thought he reposted the qualified immunity one.
No. I mean, there have been lots of reposts of that one too.
Yeah.
But Chance, that was the frat one. But either way, I mean, it was just like it's the same. Like it's the feeling of just like you like this is good, but you got to put your head down and keep like
exactly right.
So you just led to things.
Yeah. Did you just kind of make videos like that whole summer? It was just like grinding videos out, just like
I was interning. Like I was interning every day, like Monday through Friday for 2 different internships, like alternate days.
Okay.
But
was it out in LA or in Jersey?
In Jersey, I was just like at home interning from my desk. But because it was virtual, like when I didn't have a lot to do, I could just continue like, writing.
Right.
Reading up, watching videos, like learning about concepts that people were requesting stuff, like do a video on like voter suppression. So then I like learned about the exact voter ID laws, and I was like, oh, that's kind of like when you get ID'd at a frat, and then it's like another like you just kind of like do the research, and then like ideas will come to you, and you just I was just trying to like. Luckily, there was always something else to do. Like if I made one video, like I knew what the next one was going to be.
For sure.
And, like, later on in the fall, like I would get to points where I'd be like, oh, what is the next video? And then I have to spend a few days like thinking about it.
Right.
But back then there was like so much to talk about, and people were like on this woke wave.
The woke, exactly, right? Yeah, like
it was like a whole few months of just people like being ready to like share anything that looked decently and like educational.
Right. I mean, I think like obviously like I mean I think you did a really good job of just being able to educate people, but like and just like break issues down. But like I think you definitely are right in that you like kind of mentioned that whole idea of like the woke wave and how like a lot of creators did benefit off of that. and
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know,
I mean, yeah, it's kind of. I don't want to be like the kind of person who's like only has to wait for like tragedy to strike so that I can get views. Like that
yeah,
was happening like after the election, like because there was a lot of build up to the election. I made videos on
right,
that kind of stuff. The election happened, and then I was like, I mean, there was like voter fraud claims and the whole thing,
yeah,
but for like from November through like December, there wasn't so much to talk about that was like
hmm
polarizing,
for
and I
sure,
realized like I have to be able to make things that are funny regardless of how
yeah,
polarized people are, because I can't be feeding off people hating each other. Like that shouldn't be the
the
goal.
goal,
Like
yeah,
I should be making stuff just for like one group of people. It should be like
yeah,
stuff that everyone can relate to. So I made stuff about like the vaccine coming out and like being safe regardless of the fact that there's a vaccine. And
yeah,
obviously when the Capitol riot thing happened, I made something on that.
uh-huh.
If big things happen, like I'll feel very strongly, and the stronger I feel about something, the better the video will be. I feel like.
Yeah,
Sometimes there's not so much happening here,
hmm
but then obviously there's things happening in other countries, and so like then I made something on India and like the farmer protests, and
right.
right, like, there's always something bad happening
Yeah.
somewhere. So
Yeah, we could talk about the farmers protest video because I mean, I think like with the farmers protest, like the main thing that people were so kind of like worried about was that whole idea of like it wasn't getting talked about, you know, like in America, like people like news
yeah,
outlets weren't really reporting it, like everyone wasn't really talking about it. I mean, until like the whole like Rihanna retweet came out, everyone was like,
yeah, yeah,
"Hello, like this shit is big," you know, like what the fuck
yeah.
is going on? And then like you came out with your TikTok, so like explain kind of like the research behind that farmers protest because it's kind of hard. Like I tried reading articles, but it was like really difficult for me to understand like what was
It
going
is the
on.
very technical issue. Like compared to the like, other stuff I've done, it is so technical. Like I
Right.
kind of for a while, it's like I can't really boil this down into like a very simple analogy. I'm gonna have to kind of just like show what it is,
Mm-hmm.
um, and maybe simplify a little bit. Like, but yeah, it was people were requesting it like from early December, and so I put in like some research in December, and it was like very technical. But I got my
Yeah.
head
Yeah.
around most of it. Like I watched a ton of videos, read a ton of articles, but also not all of that was like a lot of that was very opinionated because it was coming out of India, and lots
Yeah.
of the media was like on Modi's side. Some of them were not on
Mm-hmm.
Modi's side. Um, it's kind of like if you got
If you
your
want,
Mr.
you can like
Fox.
explain to the viewers like what your kind of findings were because I know a lot of people like my age and I think of the viewers of the podcast are pretty confused as to like what the farmers protest is.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
the basic concept was that Modi's government passed like these three bills that are deregulating the agriculture sector in India. Because right now there are these markets where farmers can bring their crops to, like these government-run markets called mandis. And this is mainly in like it's like it's kind of rural everywhere, but this is like really mostly benefiting farmers in like Punjab and Haryana.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's basically these markets where you bring your crops and you sell them through the government. Like the government sets like certain like minimum prices so you don't get screwed over. Like so if I want to sell like my crops and someone offers me like 500 rupees, but like 1,000 is the minimum, then
Right.
I'm not gonna like lose money by getting screwed over by people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was good, but it didn't work everywhere because like I guess Punjab and Haryana like produced a good amount, and they were able to like it was able to work for them. And these new bills basically like got rid of those like middle, not got rid of them, but they offered an option where now you can just sell directly to businesses. You don't have to go through these government markets, and
Right.
there's less regulation of like what the minimum price is, which is the big thing because that means that farmers could potentially, once people just transition fully over to just selling directly to companies, um, there's no minimum price, which means that companies can offer you like very little for your crops.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetically, this is all like they think, and they don't trust the government because the government didn't even consult them when they did this. Like they didn't talk to farmers when they did this. They just This is
Right.
a new law where you can just deal directly with these big conglomerates, and chances are the conglomerates are going to probably screw over the farmers, put them in debt, and then buy up the farmers' land, and then just like
Mm-hmm.
they're the owners of the land. Farmers have like nothing,
Right.
and that's what the farmers' concern is, and that's what the
Yeah.
video is basically.
Okay, that's interesting because like yeah, I mean that like definitely broke it down in a way where like I could like semi understand it because like when I would read articles like they would bring out a lot of like technical terms in terms of like numbers and like I am not someone who does well with numbers. You can ask my calculus teacher.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I just like wrapping your head around all those numbers is like very
yeah.
difficult for
Yeah,
sure.
even though I mean, when I just was explaining it, I realized like as I was saying, I was like, "Damn, this is actually sounding more complicated as I say it." And there's like there's bills like there's more than just that bill. There's like other things that allow like companies to hoard crops so they can like affect the prices of what in the market. And I
Right.
mean, sometimes you just gotta like read and you just gotta learn it. Like not everything can be simplified, but at least in this case, I was able to simply like I took this main part and simplified it. And even then, you can be like people who support Moldy, like which there's so much backlash, which I didn't realize would happen. But
For
there's
sure.
all these people who like if you make anything in like talking about the farmers protest, you'll get like thousands of comments like from these people who just like find things saying things against Moldy and just go in the comments and just say
Right.
like you're wrong. What about this? Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
So as long as it's not like you're clear, like I'm just showing what the farmers are concerned about. I'm not like necessarily taking a side
Yeah.
or like saying that every like I'm not like arguing for anything. I'm just showing what's happening. Like
Right.
that you
I
can be
think
around
like
that.
honestly, comment sections are the most toxic things in the whole entire world. Like there's you just like
Yeah,
go through it and it's just like you read an article and like the underneath everyone's like, no, you're wrong. And then like some people are like, yes, like this is exactly what we need to see. And it's just like it just shows further division. It's like, yeah.
yeah. It's okay to disagree. Like
Right.
I'm fine with that. Like I've made videos where obviously like I made like an all lives matter video that like people who believe in all lives matter were very upset, obviously, and they're like, but like I think the video itself was my statement. Like I'm not gonna keep responding to people. Like I've said what I
For
wanted to
sure.
say. And the point of the comment section, I guess, is to have discussions, and that's good. Like if I just put something out, nobody could say anything. That
Yeah.
would be a problem. Um, but yeah, even when people disagreed, like the Moldy people, I was like happy that at least people were like talking about it, and they had like a place to talk about it. Because um, currently, like people, and my main goal wasn't even to like get Indian people to see it because I
Right.
assumed that they knew what was happening. It turns out a lot of them still were like happy to have this like resource kind of
For
to like
sure.
show people.
Yeah.
But I was doing it just to show like people here what was happening because I didn't have any idea what was happening. It took me a lot of reading to get like some kind of grasp on it. And people here probably just knew like, oh, there's some protests happening. Like that's like the most they know. So
Yeah.
it was mainly just for awareness.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Americans' just general understanding of foreign policy is so poor. Like, I've
Yeah.
just seen it from like years. Like the stuff that was happening in Sudan, like I think my senior year of high school, no one knew what the fuck was going on until Hassan
Yeah.
Minaj like came out with his episode and started talking about it.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. It doesn't take
yeah,
so much to like learn, but you need somebody who you trust kind of, and you need somebody
hmm
like with a platform to just say something. Like
yeah. So obviously, like you've gained like a significant platform like throughout like the whole woke wave, like you were talking about. Um, what was I gonna ask? Oh yeah. So do you feel like so are a lot of your followers tend to be like South Asian Americans or like do you have like would you say you have a diverse following base?
I think it's diverse, but it is a lot of South Asian Americans for sure. Like
For
I
sure.
think there's like a kind of just how like brown people watch Patriot Act. Like you like to see someone who looks like you doing things that you
Right.
like. So I mean, there's a lot of options if you're kind of
Yeah.
if you want to watch comedy on the internet. But I think yeah, I've appealed to a lot of brown people, which is nice.
That's
It would
cool.
be
Yeah.
weird if I applied like was mainly like white people and not brown people. I'd feel kind of bad if brown people didn't like me. So it's
Yeah.
good.
No, that's good that like yeah, I feel like you were saying like brown people like I think we have so like little like comedians and just like general like mainstream people in society that we kind of just like look for people that are like our skin
Yeah,
tone. It's like, "Oh
there's
shit."
not
Like,
a
yeah.
lot. There's
Yeah.
really not a lot. Yeah, I was talking to a brown like a stand-up comic here about that. Like
hmm
even brown stand-up comics, you think there are a lot, but there really aren't. Like everybody
Right.
kind of knows everybody who is doing it, which
hmm
is cool. But yeah, it's nice to see like
Yeah.
I think this what I'm doing too is it's like unique in its own way. It's not like I'm the only brown guy doing it. I'm like one of the only people doing it, like in
hmm
this format at least.
Right.
And maybe more people will start doing it. Or maybe there are people who have been doing it, but
Yeah.
um, so I don't like to pander all the time. Like I'm not trying to do things specifically like brown content, although I have done some stuff in the past about that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Like, and those things always do well, but I don't want to like be defined by that. Like I did that like
Right.
back when I was doing stand up. It was kind of the same thing. I'd make like jokes about being brown, like my beard and stuff like that. Um,
Airport
but
security, that type
yeah,
of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
airports, of course, of course.
Yeah.
And that can be funny, but that's not like that shouldn't be what you depend on. Like I don't want
Right.
to use that as a crutch. I want to be funny, like period. And then
Yeah, because I feel like
what's happening.
you see a lot of TikTok creators that have like really popped off on the app, and they pop off because of the fact that they kind of pigeonhole themselves into like brown content. And it's like,
Yeah.
I guess like I was gonna ask you, like, do you feel scared of like pigeonholing yourself into just political content? Like, do you want to be more than just a woke king? Like, do you want to like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that is, I mean, I was definitely concerned about that, especially like in that period where like the election ended and then it was like not so much political stuff to talk about.
mm-hmm,
I was like, you now I've transitioned more into just like current events and it's just like also sometimes it has like barely anything to do with current events. It's just like a comedy sketch that's
right,
rooted a little bit in fact.
yeah,
Yeah, I for a while I was like I don't want to just be doing like I didn't start doing this. I started doing just comedy. I don't want to like suddenly be defined by the one thing that did well.
Right.
At the same time, you kind of have to lean into what does well before you can. Like I was like Jeff Ross actually. We like he got into a Zoom call with one of my comedy classes
Mm-hmm.
like over like in like a year ago. And he was talking about he's like the roast master. Like he's known for just roasting people.
Yeah.
Um, and after like years of doing that, he was like, I want to be known for just being a comic. I don't want to be like the roast guy. Like, I want to be like the funny guy.
Right.
But someone told him like lean into the roast thing until you're like a big enough name, and then you can do whatever you want. Like there's no rules. Nobody's like telling you what to do. I could like
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow just make a sketch that has nothing to do with politics, and nobody would be upset. Like
Yeah.
so yeah, there is a fear of pigeonholing yourself, but really you're the only person who can pigeonhole yourself. Like there's really
Yeah.
you can do whatever you want.
For sure. I mean, I've seen your other skits when you've done like the Batman and Robin like anti-masker thing, like
Yeah.
like that. I mean, like I guess that's kind of what you were like referring to in terms of like it's rooted in a current event, but it's like supposed to be funny and
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And there'll be like
yeah,
a message at the end if it's done well. Like at the end of the anti-masker one, it was like he doesn't want to put his like his eye
yeah,
mask on because, and then at the end it's like, oh yeah, but I'll still put the COVID mask on because I'm
right,
an idiot. Like,
right,
so there's that kind of message. But
yeah,
it doesn't have to be like even the vaccine got me, bro. Have you seen that one?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Isn't it? Yeah, like that one barely has to do with the vaccine. Like it kind of does, but it's also just like this guy who has no idea how the vaccine works, and he's like, "Yo, there's a vaccine. I can jump out of a car now." Like,
yeah,
it
for
has
sure.
nothing to
He
do
just
with-
like
yeah.
feels invincible. I feel like a lot of people definitely feel that way. You know, they're like, I got the vaccine, like I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
So sometimes it
yeah,
doesn't have to be rooted in like the science, like the technical aspects of something. It can just be like the feeling of like, oh, there's a vaccine. Like, how do people feel now?
right,
Pretty brave, and then just like that is the thing. So you can relate to it, but it's just a
yeah,
comedy sketch. Like,
yeah. So you started as a neuroscience major at USC, right?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did we get from neuroscience to stand-up comedy to like what you're doing now? Like,
Yeah.
what made you like make that leap and say like, fuck it, I'm gonna do this?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think about it a lot. I don't know why I did it, but I went to a STEM high school. Like I went to the school called High Technology High School in
Okay.
Lincroft, New Jersey. Basically, like meant for like engineers. It was like you go there to like learn to be good at math and science and
Right.
go for the
So I
love of
presume
engineering.
there's a lot of brown people.
Yeah, a lot of brown people, a lot
Yeah.
of Chinese people,
Yeah.
Asian people, and like white people is like basically it.
Yeah.
Some it was everybody, but that was like the culture. And then I thought I was gonna be like in the sciences, but kind of through that school I realized how like much I also like the humanities. Like I thought I was gonna be a scientist, but then I ended up just really enjoying writing and like being funny and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I came into college like wanting to transfer into the film school, but I had to wait a year to do that. So I in the meanwhile I told my parents were like, you gotta pick something like a science. You pick a science like and I was like, okay, psychology. And they're like, no, it's a soft science. Like pick something else. I was like, okay,
Soft
neuroscience. And
science.
so, yeah, there's soft sciences and hard sciences
Yeah.
apparently. So so I did the neuroscience. I did like biology. I did pretty well in those classes, but it wasn't really what I realized how little I wanted to do that as a career.
Yeah.
Even though it's very interesting stuff. Like
Were you
everything is
thinking about being a
interesting.
doctor like out of college or like going into college? Like, was that a plan or?
It was definitely a plan that my parents considered for me, but it wasn't my
Right.
plan.
Okay.
And it's still something that my mom will bring up. She's like, "Hey, you can still go to med school if this doesn't work out." Like law school is now the thing. Law school is like my mom will text me like every
Oh,
other
because you're
day, like, every other
humanities,
week.
right? So
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
oh,
It's like, yeah,
Karan, yeah,
yeah, and it's not a bad idea. Like I have worked with lawyers now
yeah,
to make some of these. Like I've learned a lot about the law doing this, and hypothetically, I could write a good essay on this now. Maybe I don't know.
yeah.
But I'm not trying to like this. The whole thing isn't supposed to be to get into law school. Like this is supposed to be like the goal. You don't just like have to do this and then be like, all right, I've done enough. Now I can go to law school. Like you got to have goals to go all the way. And like
Right.
I guess it's your parents' job to be like always thinking of alternatives in case this doesn't work out. But
Mhm.
that's not my job. Like, my job is
Yeah.
to like keep that in mind, but just kind of go for it right now.
Yeah. So are you at USC Film right now? Like, are you?
No,
in
so I ended up not getting into the film school either. Um, which honestly was a good thing because right now they're getting
Okay.
screwed with COVID. Like to make films right now is very hard.
Right.
But I joined this other major. It's kind of like English combined with like media studies. It's called narrative studies, just like storytelling in general. So which is fun. It's a lot of writing and
Yeah.
learning how to screenwrite because I want to use TikTok, this platform, to get into actual writing for
Right.
shows and stuff, which would be the
Yeah.
ideal career path.
Okay. So like, I mean, because I came into college as like I wanted to write for TV. Like that was my plan. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I do relate to you. I was like, oh damn, he's in film school too. So, but
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I feel you on that. Like just in terms of like brown parents being like, like find a backup plan, like make sure you're got your bases covered, and then you can go do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you
I
like?
have like a minor in like computer science right now too. It's interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, are your parents like were they like really supportive like when the initial platform just started to spike, or like were they kind of like skeptical? Like what was the reaction from your family?
Yeah, they've never been skeptical. They have been very supportive, which I very much appreciate. But like I
Mm-hmm.
said, like they have an appreciation of comedy and like art, and
Right.
they've all like tried their hand at different things. Like my dad tried stand up, my mom
Right.
loves music. They both love music, but yeah, they love that that I'm going for it, and they like love the videos usually. Sometimes I try to explain the video to them like before I make it,
Yeah.
and they have no idea what I mean, and then I make it, and sometimes I'll show the video to them before I put it out, and they're like, I don't get it. Like, but then I realize like their brain is not even wired for like TikTok. Like, it took them five
Yeah.
watches to realize that there were text boxes. They're like, oh, does that say something? Like, and then they're like, I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, these are labels. Like, you have to read them really quickly, and like you have to be,
Mhm.
your mind has to be like in that mode.
For
And
sure.
they're used to just watching things. They're not like, oh, I have to read this thing really quickly. It might go away any second.
Yeah.
Like, I have to.
It's that generational thing, right? What we were talking about
Yeah,
earlier, that whole idea of like we have such a short attention span, so we can like process things really quickly. But like
yeah,
they're very used to like long form TV and like movie content where it's like,
yeah,
like they just watch the TV and just like see
yeah,
things happen
exactly.
out over time. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's interesting.
yeah.
Um,
But then
I
at
mean,
the end of the
yeah.
day, yeah,
No, go
at the end
for
of
it.
the day, when it goes out and it does well, then they're happy. Like then the results are in, and they see that people are resonating with it, and
Mhm.
then it makes sense to them, and then they'll share it with their friends, and they're very happy to see it. So
Yeah,
it can be hard to like get them to see the vision, but when you make it and it does well, then there's no questioning like that it did well. So
for sure. So
yeah,
like, what do you think like the reaction? Like, okay, so what was like the reaction that you had when you found out? Because you are the first TikTok creator to ever be cited by a federal judge.
yeah,
What was
yeah.
that like? Because that's freaking crazy. Like,
Yeah, and I think that yeah, there's like, I mean, I don't know if that's like, there's nobody who's like fact checked that for me, but
yeah.
like I have not heard of another person where this happened to them.
Okay,
But
so
yeah,
we'll
it
call it
feels,
proxy first, like quote
yeah, we'll
unquote
call it
first.
proxy. Yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah. I mean, I'll gladly take the title unless
Yeah.
someone wants to like fight me for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it feels amazing. Like that's like literally what the whole point of it is. Like it's not just,
Yeah.
it is comedy first, but it's also meant to do something, and it did do in this case. Like, it helped contribute to an argument that a judge made
Mm-hmm.
against qualified immunity, and the more judges that make arguments like that, the more you push to actually get rid of that law,
Yeah.
which is like a
So like,
real
how did they
change in the
quote you?
country.
Like, was it like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it wasn't like a direct quote. It was just like, he was basically talking about like, he basically, this judge in like Mississippi who had to
Mhm.
rule on a police brutality case, and
right,
he had to rule in favor of the cop because of qualified immunity, even though he didn't want to. He had to because of the
right.
law. But then he wrote this like long like explanation of his decision where he basically like, this is what I'm doing, but I'm very against it, and this is
Mm-hmm.
like, all the reasons why we need to get rid of qualified immunity. um and he talked about how there's public support for this, and he's like, from government to to TikTok, people are talking about how we need to get rid of this, and then he like
Right.
footnoted, like he linked my video, and so
That's kind of cool.
yeah, he
Yeah.
like, it was like getting tagged like legally, I guess.
Yeah.
So
So like, how did you
uh,
like find out about that? Because I know it's like a legal document. It's not necessarily like, oh, it's all over socials or anything.
yeah, that document was all over Twitter kind of, but not being talked about in the TikTok. It was just being talked about by like people who had a knowledge of the law.
Okay.
And then one person was like, as a side note, like, Karan Menon might be the first TikToker cited by a federal judge, and he like tagged me, and then he
Right.
like did a screenshot of like where it was in the document. I was just looking at it like, what the hell? Like, I was so
Yeah.
but it was great. So then that's just like, that can be in the resume now. Like that's
Yeah.
like a, you know,
And
if
like
I ever want to
Congress
get into
people too, right? They've like retweeted you and stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah, Ayanna Presley was
Okay.
a congresswoman who retweeted. Yeah, I don't even. I'm not even like, I'm new to Twitter. Like, I don't even use Twitter. Like, I
Yeah.
use it only to put my videos up, and I just leave it. Like, I don't tweet. Put my videos there.
Yeah.
And so like, I'll just come on and just see that people have like reposted things, and it's just like a great surprise.
That is kind of cool. Yeah, it's like opening up the box and it's like,
Yeah,
whoa.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like this is like I'm gonna kind of transition here, but like, do you ever worry that like comedy can like rub people the wrong way? And have you ever had like conservatives really come at you in like your DMs being like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Like, blah blah blah.
Yeah, honestly, that really only happened with the farmers video, because
Mhm.
people in India are just like when someone disagrees with you, I feel like in America it's just like a given. Like you disagree, it's okay. It's your right to disagree. You can
Right.
be angry in the comments, but nobody's ever like attacked me in the DMs. Like they just say things, and then people will argue with them, and then I don't really have to say much because
Hmm.
hopefully my video has addressed whatever they're saying. Like if it's a good video, it will have already said like addressed the thing.
For sure.
Um, but the farmers video was like another level because I guess in India, like if you disagree, that's not like necessarily a right like to disagree. Like,
Hmm.
there's comedians getting arrested right now for not even saying things against the government, but things that they might potentially say about the government. Like there's this guy, I think his last name is like Faruqi or something. But he's like I might be completely wrong with that, but um, he got arrested because he's like a Muslim comic, and he got arrested because he made one joke in the past about like Indian like Hindu gods, and then he was getting on stage, and some like one guy part of like Modi's government, or his party just arrested. They got him arrested for like a joke that he might have made. Like he's saying like I heard him rehearsing it backstage. He was gonna say something bad about Modi, and like you can put he that guy was put in jail for like 30 days, and he still has like a trial coming up.
That's
And
crazy.
so like disagreeing is like if you disagree, people think you shouldn't be allowed to disagree, and then those people will come into your DMs and like just try to like just let you
Right.
have it.
Yeah. That's insane. Like I've never really thought about it like that in terms of just like in different countries having different standards for like agreement and disagreement with people.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
yeah, that's super crazy. Never really thought. I mean, like I guess like I see it kind of like with like the Indians that I like interact with here, especially like the parents, like they're very staunch in their opinions, a lot of them. And like, they tend to just be like, it's either my way or the highway type of vibe.
Yeah.
So I was gonna also ask you, like, just in terms of like obviously comedy and cancel culture are so like connected to one another. So I made a video kind of like earlier in terms of like how fast do you think you could get canceled? How fast do you think you could get canceled? Just curious.
Yeah. How fast could I do it? I don't know. I mean, you'd have to like. I don't think I've done anything that's like that wrong, like,
Yeah.
where you would have something on me. But
Right.
I think anybody you could, I mean, first of all, there could be an allegation for anything, and
Yeah.
whether or not it's true, that could lead to like less people watching your things, and I mean,
100%.
you would really hope that that doesn't happen to someone who did nothing. So if it does happen, you want to be able to believe the people who like allege that kind of stuff, but. It could happen like immediately if there were that kind of allegation. It could end like right there. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess
I
it's
mean,
really up to us.
I
Yeah.
was thinking about it more so from like a perspective of like how many texts like do my friends have that they could just post an image of and I just get completely
Oh,
screwed
yeah.
over for some shit I
In
said when
that
I was
sense, in
16.
that, yeah,
Like
there might be some few images out there.
Yeah.
For sure. Some
Yeah.
yeah, it could
But-
happen.
yeah, I mean, whatever. Well, I mean, we'll think about it when it comes to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. You'll
yeah.
know when it's happening. You'll know.
you'll
And,
know. Your
you'll be
Twitter
the first to-
mentions will blow up. Like
Yeah, yeah, of course. And
But,
honestly, any publicity is good publicity. So I'm
Yeah,
for it. Let's
there
get
you go.
canceled.
Man, they're trying to cancel Eminem now. Did you hear about this?
No, I feel like they've always been trying to cancel Eminem.
Yeah.
but maybe they'll do it this time.
Well, the movement apparently has like really picked up. And
Oh,
like
okay.
Gen Z kids are like, he talks about abuse and domestic violence in his lyrics, and it's a bad influence on children. I'm like, well,
I
he's been
think
doing it
wasn't he
since.
just talking about like his experiences, like
Yeah. I mean, I don't
Okay.
know. Man,
yeah,
the
yeah.
people
He
are
also
just.
says he says screwed up stuff, but like he's like playing like a character of someone.
Slim
who's, like, a
Shady,
messed up
right?
guy.
That's yeah. I mean, that's like
So
the
you
whole
can-
point
yeah.
of that.
Exactly.
But
You can find fault with any of that, I guess. If people don't think you should be able to say things and they get angry, but
yeah, I mean, it's that whole
depends on what
idea
you're saying.
of like political correctness, right? And I think that goes with comedy as well, because I think comics do toe the line sometimes of like what's politically correct and like what's not. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, they're kind of the only people doing that in a way. Like there's musicians who are doing that too, but comics are like the people who are literally testing the waters all
Yeah.
the time of like what can be talked about and what cannot be talked about,
Mhm.
like what is too painful to talk about, and really anything should be allowed like to be talked about.
Have you ever
There's-
felt like when you're on stage or like when you're making a video, like, ooh, that might be a little far, like I'm not gonna say that, or like pull back a little bit?
Yeah, sometimes there'll be
Yeah.
jokes where it's not worth it. Like you can do it and you can stand by the joke, but
Right.
it's just not worth it. Like you gotta
Okay.
make kind of your own judgment call. Like I would rather just have a video appeal to more people. Sometimes it's even like, do I want to curse in this video? Like I'll bleep it out, but like
Hmm.
it'll reach more people if I just don't like if I just make it like a clean video. And in the same way, it's like it'll reach more people if I don't like make an enemy out of certain groups just for the sake of joke. Like,
Right.
and I can say I was joking, but it's
Yeah.
just it's not that's not the purpose of the video. Like to roast, like I mean, sometimes the purpose is to roast, but not like
Hmm.
as long as you're punching up, not down. You know.
Yeah. So have you ever like just kind of like give me an example of like one of those if you can. Like you can cleanify it up a little bit, but like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. Trying to think. What was the video? Like there's like videos about like frat culture and stuff like
hmm.
where if you look at like actual frat culture, like there's a lot of problems. Like there's a
For
lot of
sure.
like like sexual assault and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And how like I mean people go to these parties and be like just obsessed with like the ratio of like guys to girls and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
um so there have been a few jokes about like that kind of like an offhanded joke about just like frats in general
Right.
that because that is the setting. Um, but then I realized like that's not what I'm talking about right now. Like, the point is to talk about like government practices in this setting.
For
So
sure.
I'm just gonna leave that alone. There's also like people probably in college who don't like are in frats or are good people and don't want to be like labeled as like just because frats have problems that these people don't want to be like
Right.
ostracized for that.
Yeah. And like not all
Yeah.
frats are necessarily bad, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not like a lot of frats are like professional frats or like
Exactly,
this side or
exactly.
the
Yeah.
other. So it's like I feel like categorizing isn't necessarily the way to go. But like
Yeah.
when you moved to LA for, sorry to transition really awkwardly,
Of
but
course, yeah.
when you moved to LA for like school, like in terms of like the scene, like I don't know if you like really got like tried anything in New York or if you've tried anything now in New York or New Jersey. Like what are like kind of the differences between the stand-up scene like in LA or like the comedy scene in LA versus like the East Coast.
Yeah, I've never done stand up in New York. I've only done it in LA, but from what I've like learned from other people, LA is like, and this is the problem that I have in LA is like it's very everything's spread out in LA, so you can't really
Hmm.
hit like multiple mics in a night unless you're like you have a car and you can just go and they're all close
Right.
together. In New York, everything is right there. Like all the mics will be in like the same few blocks if you like arrange it correctly. And so you could potentially hit like 5 to 6 mics in one night and just really hone a joke that way. Like you don't
Hmm.
have to like wait till the next day to go out to a new mic and work on the same joke. You can just get
Right.
immediate feedback, take notes, go to the next place, get immediate feedback, take notes, and so you can get your jokes very strong much quicker. I feel like in New York, but in
Yeah.
LA, I guess there's more open space. I guess there's more potential for outdoor shows now, which is also very important because you can't do a lot of indoor stuff.
Yeah.
And there's just more chill people. I feel like up here, like,
Yeah.
but I'm used to both environments, so I kind of don't mind.
For sure.
But yeah,
Yeah, I feel like in terms of like LA, it's very it's more like Hollywoody. So like if you're into kind of like writing for TV, like you were saying, or like wanting to do writing or some like more creative stuff and more avenues, like you're able to have avenues to like go down and
yeah,
people to talk to in those departments. So yeah,
yeah.
I mean, have you like gotten like so like obviously you've like switched your major kind of to more like this narrative studies stuff like that. Like, are you interning at kind of more like English stuff or like
Yeah,
what are you
I
working
haven't done too many internships,
on? Yeah,
but like places I've been at so far have been more focused towards yeah, like production and making content for different companies.
nice.
I've done some like writing jobs for like different web series and stuff like that, so that's been nice.
Okay.
And yeah, development for TV and film is like
Yeah. So
my scene
like
right now.
what I know I don't want to give too much away in terms of like what you're working on, but like can you tell people like what are some projects that you're working on? Like what are you doing right now?
Yeah, yeah. I've submitted to a few like shows, like to be a writer, for like talk shows, but until that happens, you don't know. I mean, there's so many people submit. But there's a sketch I'm working on right now with Comedy Central that could or could not get through, depending on if they approve the script.
Okay.
But that is the biggest thing that
That is
has the
exciting.
potential to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So like you're just kind of really trying to focus on like TV and like that writing space and that type of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, interesting. So like where do you see like the end goal going? Like what do you want to be like eventually in the future? Like what's the dream?
Yeah.
You could
I would
pick
love to
one.
like either like run my own show or like have a show that I created that like becomes an actual show or like
Hmm.
be on SNL. SNL is a very
Right.
like a dream that a lot of people have, but yeah, those are like the two big ones.
Yeah. And where can the people find you, man? Like if we were to find you.
Yeah, at the Karan Menon, anywhere, like literally any platform, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. I don't know if there's other ones, but I'm there. And yeah, I mean, TikTok is where you can find like all the 60-second videos. Some of them there's longer versions on the Instagram. But you can just look my name up. I am no longer the second. I'm no longer below the other Karan Menon. If you Google my name, I'm number one, and
Okay.
that's how you know I've made it.
So I guess the documentary has been complete. I think you got to do an
Yeah.
update. I think you really do.
Yeah, we've been thinking about it. Like there have been times where I was planning on doing it right before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And now there's just this whole COVID thing to talk about too, so it's all gonna
Yeah.
get in there. Documentary.
So
part two.
is the other Karan Menon like? I heard he also goes to USC. That was in the
He
documentary.
does, yeah. After the video came out, he got into USC and he chose USC.
Oh
And
man,
he lived in the same area of campus that I did, and we saw each other multiple times.
That's
and it's been
crazy.
a ride. Yeah.
I think your guys' lives are just intertwined for life.
Yeah, we're just destined to. I think we'll die together. I
Yeah.
don't really know what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And why TikTok? That was the last question I had.
Yeah, just for the attention span aspect of it, like that's where everybody is. First of all, that's like you're gonna reach the most people there. It's short. People have short attention spans. You're trying to reach young people, and yeah, there's I was gonna say something else. Why TikTok? Yeah, I mean that's basically it. That's like the yeah, just the length of it.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, the app itself just like you don't have to do any marketing on TikTok. The app shows your video to people.
Right. So it just kind of like caters to that algorithm, right? Like the
Yeah,
specific.
exactly. It's like made for people who want to go viral, basically. So
Yeah.
it's like the place to be. Yeah.
That's interesting. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. If you guys like this episode, go ahead and hit the like button on YouTube. Go ahead and smash the subscribe button. We're trying to grow this family. I know we have
Yes,
31 subscribers, one above my
sir.
guy Steph Curry. But let's grow it. Let's get to 100. We'll see. Twitter, follow me at EssentialQU1 and Instagram, The Essential Question Podcast, for more updates on episodes and information. Karan, again, thank you so much, man, for giving
Thank
me
you.
some time out of your day. I know you're a busy man.
Yeah.
I'll let you get back to writing, hopefully. So let's
Yes,
see.
thank you so much.
Yeah, man, and good luck. And hopefully we could get you back on again sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, man. Take care.
All right.
Up, everyone? Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the podcast. Really hope you guys enjoyed the conversation with Karan as much as I did. I know I learned a lot about the political comedy space and the really tremendous amount of effort and research that it takes to produce the skits that he does in such a fashion that he does. It was also really cool to hear firsthand what it was like at the start of his career and all the big things that he has coming up. It's going to be really exciting to see where Karan goes, so feel free to go check out the links that I have of his down below, his YouTube channel, his TikTok, his Twitter, his Instagram, and feel free to go follow him before he goes mainstream because kid's going places. If you guys like this episode and you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit the smash the like button and subscribe button. Make sure that we are on the positive trajectory with this podcast. We go to the moon like GameStop did. The subscribers have been growing like crazy, so go ahead and make sure that you're notified that this video is happening. Also, go follow me on Spotify or whatever podcast sites you're listening to me on if you guys do that. Hopefully, you guys give me a good review as well if you're on Apple Podcasts because that would be much appreciated. Grows the community, makes me seem more credible than I actually am. Good stuff. Anyway, go ahead also and follow me on the socials if you haven't already as well. At Essential Question Podcast on Instagram, EssentialQU1 on Twitter. You'll get all my beautiful social media promotions as well as amazing picture dumps. I did a photo dump the other day for the Throwback Thursday. You know how to do it for the gram. And also like little forms of content which I find awesome. I'll go ahead and retweet, put on my story, whatever. So go ahead and do that because I feel like I'm a relatively interesting person and I think I'd be a good follow. But anyway, that's that. I hope you guys really liked this episode. If you guys like more of these like comedian TikTok type episodes, definitely feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Karan was a pleasure to have on, so I'd like to thank Karan again for coming on the podcast. But yeah, till next week, big things are in the works as they always are. So keep staying tuned, keep liking the videos, keep subscribing, and keep getting your friends to listen, family, whatever, dogs. Anybody is appreciated. So thank you guys so much again for giving me some of your time and listening to this episode. Peace.